Welcome to the Royal Daily Tea YouTube channel. Please be advised all of my videos are for entertainment purposes only, based 100% on my own opinion, my own theories, and my own research. All of my information can be found on the public domain and falls under the fair use guidelines. Please feel free to do your own research. Hi everyone, it's Michelle and welcome back to the Royal Daily Tea. So today we're going to talk about these Sussexes and the major problem that they're having with their brand. So when the Sussexes left the royal family back in 2020, when they embarked on the Megxit journey, they came over here to America with stars in their eyes thinking we're the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and we're hot and we're going to get so much money and so many deals. And they were right. When they came over, they started signing their name to people like Netflix and Spotify and Procter and Gamble and a few other major brand deals. But the problem was when they came over here, it was right when the worldwide pandemic hit, and it was literally the worst time to try to branch a new brand, especially in Hollywood when everything was shut down. You know, movies went down, TV shows went down, people were locked in their homes. So it wasn't the greatest time to start networking and doing the public speaking events that they were initially going to do. The second problem that these Sussexes found was that they were literally branding and signing deals based on their titles as the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The problem with that is there's no substance behind it. And now they're finding out the hard way 2 years later that they have a problem because they signed all these deals, but they haven't produced anything because they don't have the skills or the education or the experience to really do 90% of the brands that they actually signed. Now, back when they were part of the royal family, they were called Sussex Royal, and Meghan actually tried to trademark the name Sussex Royal, which was quickly denied by Her Majesty because you're not allowed to, copyright a brand, a title. It's a privilege and an honor and a gift that is bestowed upon you from Her Majesty. It is not meant to be a brand. So Meghan was very upset when she could not trademark Sussex Royal. They launched Archewell Foundation, which was based upon her son Archie. Now, I believe when they initially tried to get the copyright for Archewell, they had a problem because there was another company who had that name. Now, I'm not sure if they actually have a trademark for Archewell, but I know they've had many problems with their brand pretty much from the beginning. So like I said, you have an ex-prince and a C-level actress who are now trying to come over and start over a new brand with no substance. They're literally banking on their fame or their infamy and their titles. Much like many reality stars do, they start banking on their infamy. They're famous for 15 minutes, and so they start private labeling and putting their name on a whole bunch of stuff. And sometimes they're successful and sometimes they're not. You look at the Kardashians, they actually are an example of people who did it the right way. But you look at other reality stars and you see major failures because just because you're famous and you have the money to throw your name on something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a successful brand or product. Now with Harry and Meghan, they started signing all these huge deals, but they made some major errors. You know, Meghan and Harry, they're not philanthropists. They're not actors. They're not really writers or producers or podcasters or politicians. It's like they're trying to play all these different things, but they're not using what they're good at. They're not using their experience or their strengths. So now it's becoming kind of a joke because 2 years later, they still haven't produced anything. And now people are kind of looking at them like, you're fake. You know, you don't really know what you're doing. You're a disaster. You're a failure to launch. You need to start putting up or shut up. And that old saying, you have to strike while the iron is hot. Well, now it's 2 years later and that steam has faded. Now people are like, so when's the second episode of that podcast going to air? Like, people are really starting to dish on them and not in a positive light. So I believe that Harry and Meghan had a major brand and identity crisis, and they decided that instead of being a duo, they're now, divide and conquering on their brand, where Meghan's going to have her own projects and Harry's having his own projects. And so now we have the archetype or the archetype podcast from Meghan. And again, this is already starting to be a failure before it's even launched. So we've just heard today that she's trying to trademark the name archetype. And look, I don't have a problem with her trademarking. As a business person, I can tell you this is one of the things that you do. However, I have a lot of questions. First of all, why are they trying to trademark it at this point of the brand? It's like they're putting the cart before the horse. We don't even know if this podcast is going to make it past the 4th episode, right? We have no idea. Secondly, the name archetype is taken from someone else, apparently already has the name, and the concept of the show is very questionable and is apparently a ripoff of someone else's content. But again, it's like, who are their people? Like, does anyone talk to them? Are they afraid to say no to them? Are they surrounded by yes people? Because this brand is going to fail. The number one thing you do in business is you create a business and then you create who your customer is going to be. You need to make sure, one, it's an industry where you're going to make money and there's a need and a want for it. The topic of women being labeled, I don't know who told them this was a good idea, but it's a bad idea. We're not in 1950. We're not a bunch of housewives standing around waiting for our husbands to come home so we can ask permission for money to go to the grocery store. We're not standing around in the 60s burning our bras or trying to fight for the right to vote. I think we all got that. We're all empowered. We're all empowered to work our butt off and take care of our house. Thank you. We're pretty empowered here, Meghan. So I don't know what 1950s spaceship you fell out of or who on your team said, yes, Meghan, that's a great idea for a podcast, but they need to be fired. Because that podcast, that subject is already putting me to sleep. And your SS squad can only pretend to support you for so long. By the 3rd episode, it's going to tank. Okay? It's going to tank. I don't care who you have on your podcast. That is a very boring topic. Again, either do some ASMR or find another topic because it's not going to work. So again, it's like Meghan is playing the part. I'm a very heavy-hitting political figure, woman who needs to be taken very seriously, and I'm going to lower my voice, and I'm going to put on a black turtleneck, and we're going to interview very serious and boring women, and we're going to talk about women empowerment until you want to stab your eye out. Oh my God, talk about a promo. Hey, you can borrow that. But again, it's like, where are their people? Who is telling them this is a great idea? And Harry is launching out with mental health on his podcast. I can't wait to hear what the name of that podcast is going to be. But again, it's like they're surrounding themselves with these very high paid people. And I have a feeling they're a bunch of yes people who are just wanting to get their paychecks because they're getting some extremely bad advice. I promise you, I can tell you, extremely bad advice. Now, getting the trademark on archetype is not a bad thing per se. However, are they getting it for America? Are they getting it for the UK? Or is this going to be an international trademark? I've owned several trademarks. They're very expensive, they're very hard to do, and they're very hard to maintain. The problem with that is that archetype apparently is a very commonly used word in Greece. There's probably several businesses who have that name already. So trying to get a trademark on that, it might be questionable. I don't know if it's doable. It might be, depends on the context. I saw the paperwork. She's basically, using it for her podcast, so it could work. Again, a lot of people were ribbing her for it, and I'm not going to rib her for it because she's trying. She's trying to do the right thing. But I still feel like their brand is majorly having a crisis, and it's going to fail because they're doing things they're not good at. Now, my biggest question is I don't know why Meghan did not re release the Teague. People have ribbed her for her lifestyle blog, but to be honest with you, I think she would have been very successful if she would have relaunched the Teague. She actually does have a trademark already established for the Teague for her lifestyle blog. She could have even had the podcast for the Teague, would have been a great extension of her brand. And she would have been very successful because she would have gone back to her roots, the person she was before she married Harry. She could have got a lot of brand deals to advertise on her blog, and she could have taught us how to make the chicken she made when she got Harry to propose, or the perfect warrior pose. People, that would have been more believable to people and a lot more sellable than this fake political woman activist that she's trying to be. She's not the female embodiment of Steve Jobs. I'm sorry, but that's not who you are. You were carrying a briefcase and acting in a cable TV show before you married Harry. You are not a political activist. So why are you trying to become one now? It's bizarre. Again, she's trying to play the part of the Duchess will now be playing the part of the humanitarian. The Duchess will now be playing the part of a woman who's giving a fake speech at the UN. It's like you're not a Duchess acting a role. Just be a real person. Use your real skills and your education and your talent. That would be more believable. People would have had more respect if she just would have went to the Teague. Seriously. It wasn't a bad blog. I'll give her some credit. But at least that was who she was. That was who she was. She'd be authentic. But this fake pseudo Duchess plays the part of humanitarian, activist, political Barbie, whatever she's trying to be, is not working. And it's turning people off because it's like, what? What are you doing? This isn't who you are. And Harry, he went from being a prince to following his wife around. Literally, he's become Meghan's husband. He's kind of become a laughingstock. And now they've decided that they're going to divide and conquer their brands, and Harry's going to have his own podcast. He's going to do his book. He's doing the Invictus. Like, they're splitting their brand. So first they were the Duke and Duchess of Sussex takes over Hollywood, and now they're just splitting, trying to figure out who they are and what their brand is. And again, they're going to have a problem because they're not doing the basic steps of developing a brand. Instead, they're banking on their fame and their titles in order to sell products. And the problem is they don't have an actual audience. They don't have social media. They only have a certain group of people, but even those people are not going to buy everything that they're trying to sell. It's like the reality stars who throw their names on things thinking everyone's going to buy it because they watch them on TV. That's not necessarily going to happen. So they're having a major brand crisis. They've made huge mistakes by trying to capitalize just on being the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and it's not going to work. You have to have substance behind your brand, and you need to have an actual product for people to buy. So what do you guys think? Do you think that Meghan should have reopened the Teague? Do you think that Archetype is going to get their trademark? And do you think her podcast is going to be a success? Leave me your comments, guys, down below. As always, I appreciate all of your wonderful and insightful comments. Make sure you check me out on all of my social media accounts. And if you want to earn a special gold star, go over and check out the Royal Daily Tea blog. I would greatly appreciate it if you left me a comment. Thanks, guys, and have an awesome and amazing day. Bye, guys.